Today, let's train two movements together. Let's go with the planche position. Now, the planche can be done in this tuck position. It can be opened out into harder progressions, and then we'll combine that with the straddle L-sit position. Now, these go together very, very nicely, carry over to skills like STALDER press. It doesn't have to be a straddle L-sit. It could be a standard L-sit position. You could actually play with all three of those movements. You could go planche to straddle L-sit to planche to pike L-sit. There's lots of benefit in training the transitions between all of those, and then it gives you lots of options when you're playing with the handstand. So first of all, before we start the transitions, we need to make sure that you have the individual components. So the basic position would be a tuck planche there. Now, if you don't have that for time, you could still train this skill, but you're going to have to use some sort of assistance. So you could go toe assist, like so. You're still trying to mimic that exact same position with the bent knee, with the protracted position, with the push up and slightly forwards. But you just get a little bit of assistance from that toe on the floor. You could also go into like a crane type position. So straight arm, froggy crow position. That could work as well. Band planche could work, but then it's going to make the tricky transition into the L-sit and back out again. What I'd probably do is just keep them completely separate and work on that tuck planche by itself until you can hold that for around 10 seconds before you start adding the transitions in terms of like programming a skill like this. But if you just want to play with it, you could use toe assist through the whole movement. So toe assist there, toe assist, walk around and get in to your L-sit position. Now with the planche, you could open out to harder progressions. So taking the legs behind you more in some way. Now with that, you're going to have to decide how long you want to hold the planche position. If you just want to visit it like I just did there, I could get away with holding that for a couple of seconds, especially if I use momentum to come into it from the L-sit or start in that position and then go down like eccentrically into the L-sit. But that's where you could play with all those components, like how much time you spend in each one, how slow you go on the transition, whether you do the eccentric, so starting in the planche position and going through to the L-sit, or from the L-sit back to the planche, which I would call the concentric. So then we have the L-sit. Now, something to bear in mind, when you have P-bars like this, I've set these up so I've got them externally rotated. Let me show you. So I've got them turned out slightly, and they're quite wide apart as well. Now, the downside with that is that I need to use that same setup for the L-sit. Now, I would do it that way around. Most people are going to be a little bit stronger or have a little bit more control in the L-sit than they are in the planche itself. So set up for the planche and then compensate a little bit with the L-sit position. So then I just need to check how that L-sit feels, step into the position. I'm make it nice and easy to start with and have knees bent. This takes the flexibility demand out and I'm just holding the position. Now, because of how wide the hands are, I'm actually resting quite a bit on the legs. If I had a narrower position with the arms, I would float the legs a little bit more. Again, we just want to be looking for a position that we can hold for around 10 seconds. There, I could make it harder like that, straighten the legs. You can tell by my voice that that's getting harder to hold. And I could do exactly the same with the pike position. So knees nice and high, hold there 5-10 seconds, make it harder, straight legs. So for the planche, we have the tuck position, which could be assisted if needed. We could do the full tuck position, so fully by yourself, meaning that you're doing all the work. You could then just open the tuck out, so open tuck. Then you go to like a froggy position. Then you could go to straddle. Most people would go to like a high hip straddle first, meaning you've got a pike, and then open hip. And then from there, it's like full planche, half lay, those type of positions that are way harder. Then the L-sit, the big one, do you go down the straddle route or do you go into a pike? I recommend you do a bit of both. And then it's just down to bent legs. It's going to be your first one. Go into straight legs. I mean, you could go actually, you go straight legs and then you could go more to like V-sit, lifting up higher. Then for those, you have the time component. So time in the static position. So position static. And that's for each one. You have the time in the transition, how slow you go. And then you have the concentric versus eccentric. Okay, so the easiest variation to start with would be tuck assisted planche. So we're going to use assistance in this position, and then we're going to walk through with control on an eccentric only into a straddle L-sit with bent knees. So there, there, walk around, bent knee position, hold. So that's eccentric only, easiest variation of the tuck, easiest variation of the straddle, exactly the same for the pike. You'd start in that position and then walk round to that position. Then we can make that harder by adding a concentric in, so going back again. Now if you're using assistance on the eccentric, you're going to have to use assistance on the concentric as well, because the concentric is harder unless we use a lot of speed, but the full movement would be there, hold for a bit, transition through, hold for a bit, transition back, hold for a bit again. Then we have the same but without assistance, so into that position, coming through, eccentric only, exactly the same with the pike. Into that position, hold, eccentric only, nice and easy variation of the L-Sit. Okay, then you have a choice. You could either make the planche progressions harder, make the L-Sit progressions harder, and still only work the eccentric, because the concentric is going to take a lot more energy up. So you could go more advanced planche position through to more advanced L-Sit position. And just stop there and not do the concentric. You could do the concentric only. So you would start in the L-Sit and then you'd go up to the planche position. Now, if you're going to do that one, I'd also do some sort of eccentric. You might as well, because you've done the work to get up, but it's just like it's a bottom up movement. So you start in the bottom position, concentric up, do the hold in the planche, come back down again. Where probably the hardest variation is to start in the planche, go down, hold the L-Sit, and go back again. Okay, so let's see. So I'll see if I can go into more advanced planche, more advanced L-Sit, back to planche. And remember, when you go back, like I just done, you could go into an easier variation of the planche. So you have all those things you can play with in the moment, depending on how hard the rep or the set is. As your sets go on, you're going to peak. Normally with the planche, it's like peak at third or fourth set, but then you're quickly going to get tired. So having options in terms of speed, whether it's for the transitions, whether it's for the holds or the position themselves, you can play with all those things. I love this exercise. I think it's really fun to train. I'm a big fan of actually doing it raised up as well, because that way you don't have to worry about clearance. But if you want to make things extra hard, you could swap out these P-bars for something like this. And now when you do the exercise, it's more like a STALDER press on the floor where you have to lift your feet up and scoop them out of the way. So harder training, but not so much fun. And if you do have some handstand control, you can go here and then up to handstand in some sort of variation, whether that's opening up into more of a planche press or, like I did, more of a STALDER-y press position. And then you can do an eccentric down, back through to an L-Sit of some sort, whether that's straddle or pike. So lots of fun to be had with this one. It's hard to program it exactly, and I'd probably recommend you train it like I do. You play with it occasionally as opposed to have it set into a program. I'd leave the programming for your standard calisthenics strength skills like press handstand, handstand push-up, handstand balance, but it all depends on your goals and what you're working towards. If you need more help with your training, I currently have 50% off my online courses. Take a picture of these QR codes, or you'll find links in the description. You can also watch this video that takes you through my coaching options. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll speak to you guys in the next one.